The city was still dark when Evelyn opened her eyes. Sleep had left hours ago, chased away by the sound of regret. Her apartment smelled of cold coffee and server heat. The laptop screen glowed like a single blue star. She sat before it barefoot, in silence thick as fog. Her reflection stared back from the glass, pale and steady. She entered the long password, only her hands remembered. The system blinked alive, lines of code rolling like tides. Clear data systems, her creation, her refuge, her weapon. She whispered, "You still work for me, not them." A soft hum answered, the quiet heartbeat of control. On the screen, Carter and Haynes' license appeared active. She clicked a small gray button, Modify Access. A menu unfolded with polite precision. Her eyes drifted to the last option, Revoke. Her finger hovered, trembling but certain. "Goodbye, Father," she murmured, pressing the command. The system confirmed, with an indifferent tone. Thousands of orders froze across continents in an instant. Factories waited, ships idled, phones began to ring. She leaned back, watching red alerts bloom like fire. The silence that followed was her first act of defiance. Evelyn opened her email client, fingers poised to strike again. Subject line, notice of leave without pay. Body, due to executive pressure to falsify data. Her words were calm, almost surgical. She attached the code of conduct she had written herself. Each sentence a blade, sharpened by law. She CC'd her personal address, proof outside company walls. Then she pressed send and felt her pulse slow. The machine of corruption had just swallowed a poison pill. She stood and crossed to the window. Below, the river moved like black glass. The city's towers blinked in distant arrogance. Her phone buzzed with a message from David. "Don't push too hard, it's just business." Her lips twisted, a soundless laugh. Business, that was their word for betrayal. She deleted the message without reading the rest. Her reflection looked older now, carved by consequence. She returned to her desk and opened a hidden terminal. The green text pulsed against the black screen. She typed commands with a rhythm like breathing. Master key rotation initiated. Encryption reset complete. Old credentials dead. New owner, E. Carter. The machine obeyed without question. A soft beep marked the shift of power unseen. Somewhere in the network, a door closed forever. She stared at the screen, then at the small USB beside it. That little black device held the Empire's real crown. She picked it up, feeling its weightless gravity. Control was not taken, it was reclaimed. Her hand steadied, her heart did not. The dawn crept through thin curtains, pale and reluctant. Evelyn looked toward the light and whispered, "Round 1. The war had already begun, and no one knew it yet. 2 years earlier, the boardroom smelled of ambition and glass. Evelyn stood before a wall of men in suits and silence. Behind her, charts glowed with green lines of growth and lies. She smiled, calm, precise, and already 3 moves ahead. "Gentlemen," she began, "I propose a new safeguard for integrity." Her father leaned back, bored but curious. "It's called the reverse integrity clause." The name sounded harmless, designed for applause. She clicked to the next slide, words wrapped in corporate charm. "Any employee punished for refusing illegal directives," she said, "will be temporarily assigned the Carter family's voting proxy." A ripple of polite confusion passed through the room. Richard Carter laughed first, sharp and careless. "So if someone disobeys me, they get my shares." His laughter filled the room, brittle and blind. Evelyn smiled back, the picture of obedience. "It's a statement of trust, Father. Investors love accountability." The word investors caught his attention. He waved a hand, dismissive but approving. "Fine, whatever keeps the green funds happy, add it." The motion passed without debate, without thought. Digital pens, signed in lazy loops of confidence. No one noticed the paragraph buried on page 12. No one but Evelyn. That night, in her apartment, she rewrote the clause again. She coded it into the compliance server like a ghost key. Trigger conditions, verification chain, proxy transfer. She encrypted it under her private authority. The system would listen to only one voice, hers. Months later, she refined it during late nights and black coffee. Each update made the trap sharper, cleaner, invisible. She documented everything with legal precision. Emails, recordings, timestamps, every breadcrumb aligned. Her father called it a vanity project. She called it insurance. When the fine came from the Port Authority, she saw the pattern. They had bribed inspectors, altered manifests, buried numbers. Richard's solution was laughter and another donation. Evelyn's was law. She watched them polish their image with borrowed ethics. She learned how corruption disguised itself as strategy. Each report she filed, each audit she tightened, was another screw turning slowly in the dark. She met with outside counsel, quiet specialists in governance. They thought she was writing policy. She was building a detonator. Her mother once told her, "Your father doesn't read small print." Evelyn smiled when she remembered that. She wrote smaller. The clause went live the next quarter, buried beneath bonuses. Her father never asked again. No one ever did. Until now. She opened the archived file and read it once more. Every line was perfect, unbreakable, inevitable. The signature glowed at the bottom, Richard Carter. Digital, legal binding. He had sealed his own, undoing with a flourish of arrogance. Evelyn closed the file, exhaled, and whispered, "Checkmate in waiting." The trap had slept for 2 years, patient as a machine. Tonight, it would finally wake. The email arrived at 10:17 a.m. sharp. Subject line, formal notice of misconduct. Evelyn stared at it without surprise. She had been waiting for this moment. She opened the message with steady hands. Each sentence was a masterpiece of falsehood. Unauthorized system disruption. Deliberate sabotage of company property. Breach of confidentiality for personal gain. Her father's tone was in every line, cold, theatrical, final. The distribution list was what mattered most. CC, Board of Directors, Legal Counsel, Brookfield Capital. He had made it official. He had made it public. And that was all she needed. Evelyn copied the email address from the top. She forwarded the message to her private server. Subject, FWD Notice of Misconduct. One click. The screen blinked once. Then a reply appeared instantly, mechanical and absolute. Reverse integrity clause activated. Proxy transfer complete, E. Carter. A chill ran through her, sharp and electric. 28% of the company now bore her name. She had just become the largest single vote in Carter and Haynes. No alarm sounded. No headlines screamed. But the ground beneath, the empire shifted silently. Her phone rang almost immediately. Caller ID, Lara Quinn, her attorney. "It's done," Lara said without greeting. He signed the order and sent it outside HR. That's the trigger. Evelyn closed her eyes. Her pulse slowed to an even rhythm. "Then file the 13D, she said quietly. She opened the prepared document on her screen. Form 13D, Declaration of Beneficial Ownership. The digital ink waited for her name. She filled in the blanks with precision. Exhibit A, reverse clause copy. Exhibit B, server log from clear data. Exhibit C, the misconduct email metadata. She signed with her encrypted key. Ownership exceeding 5% of voting shares, the system confirmed. The message left her inbox like a silent missile. 5 minutes later, an alert pinged across the corporate network. Brookfield's legal team had received the filing. They were demanding an emergency board meeting. The ripples spread faster than rumor. In the tower above the river, Richard Carter was shouting. She could almost hear him through the walls of the city. "Who authorized this? The board members scrambled, phones ringing, reputations shaking. But the system logs were immutable. The documents were time-stamped and external. There was no undo. Evelyn sat back, staring at her reflection in the glass. The world outside still looked calm, ordinary, obedient. But inside the circuits, a throne had been moved. She thought of the phrase her mother once whispered. Truth waits until power sleeps. Now power was waking, and it wore her face. Her phone buzzed again. A single text from an unknown number. You'll regret this. She smiled faintly. Maybe, she typed back. But not today. Then she shut the phone off. The coup was complete, and no one had even heard the gunfire. The boardroom shimmered with too much glass and tension. Evelyn stepped inside, her heels echoing like a verdict. 12 faces turned, a constellation of disbelief and fear. At the head of the table sat Richard Carter, pale and rigid. On the wall screen, Brookfield Capital's lawyers stared coldly. Evelyn placed her laptop on the polished wood. She didn't sit. Before we begin, she said, you should all hear this. She pressed play. Her father's recorded voice filled the room like thunder. I don't care about the regulations. Fix the numbers. The words landed heavy, undeniable, eternal. Silence followed, deep, surgical, suffocating. One director coughed. Another looked down at his shoes. Richard's jaw tightened until it creaked. You dare spy on me, he hissed. I document everything, she replied. Brookfield's lead counsel leaned toward the camera. If this is genuine, he said, we require immediate action. His voice was calm, but the threat inside it was sharp. Richard's power had turned radioactive. Evelyn opened a new document on her screen. Here are my terms, she said. Rescind the misconduct notice. Form an independent ethics committee. Freeze all executive bonuses until the audit concludes. The list was simple. The silence that followed was not. Her father slammed his hand against the table. This is blackmail. No, she said. This is repair. She turned to the screen, where the investors watched. Carter and Haynes will operate under transparency, or not at all. The oldest director, a man of tired principles, nodded once. It may be the only way forward. Richard glared at him like a wounded king betrayed. Do you all plan to hand my company to her? Evelyn corrected him softly. It was never yours, father. It was ours, until you broke it. The air conditioner hummed like distant applause. Her phone buzzed on the table, a message from Marcus Hale. System down. Verification chain frozen. Need your clearance. She typed back. After compliance is restored, not before. A clear reminder. Control required conscience first. She looked at each director in turn. You know what I built, she said. You know it's clean. Brookfield's lawyer adjusted his tie. If her system is restored, the supply chain stabilizes within hours. If not, we withdraw funding by end of day. That was the ultimatum. The board members shifted in their seats. Their silence became a vote long before words arrived. Richard leaned forward, voice breaking into fury. She's my daughter. Evelyn's reply was ice. And that's the only reason you're still in this room. The projector light flickered, casting her shadow across the wall. It stretched long, unyielding, almost regal. For the first time, she looked like the one in command. Outside, the city hummed unaware. Inside, history rewrote itself line by line. In a boardroom built for power. Now claimed by truth. The night bled into the boardroom like smoke. Documents scattered across the table, silent witnesses to chaos. Evelyn stood near the window, phone pressed to her ear. Marcus Hale's voice came through, tight and trembling. I found something, he said. You need to see this. Within minutes, a secure file appeared in her inbox. Server logs, timestamps, IP trails. Every edit to the emission data, traced back to one user. Richard Carter. No assistant, no scapegoat, just him. Evelyn felt no triumph, only a cold confirmation. She uploaded the file to her encrypted drive. Evidence complete, no exit left for him. Behind her, the board members whispered like ghosts. Brookfield's lawyers were already drafting contingencies. Investors wanted statements before sunrise. Her father had vanished from the room an hour ago. The walls still echoed his last outburst. "You think you're saving this company. You're burning it." She whispered to the empty air. "No, father, I'm burning the rot." Her phone vibrated again, a name she once loved. David Ross. She hesitated, then answered. His voice was raw, guilty, familiar. "Evelyn, I didn't know it would go this far." She said nothing. "I filed the complaint because he told me you'd gone rogue. He said it was for your own good." Evelyn laughed once, sharp and joyless. "You CC'd me, David. That single email triggered everything." He inhaled hard. "Then I helped you without meaning to." "Yes," she said softly, "you did." For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them was the sound of a bridge burning. When the call ended, she forwarded the log files to Lara Quinn. Subject, final proof. Lara's reply came seconds later. "Irrefutable, we proceed." Outside, the rain began a steady, cleansing rhythm. Somewhere in the building, alarms flickered briefly. A symptom of systems, overloading from corruption's collapse. Evelyn watched the water blur the skyline into smudges of light. Her father was probably at his desk, selling assets to cover the leaks she had exposed. He would sell the warehouses, maybe even the ships. But he didn't understand. The sales themselves violated debt covenants. Every move he made to save himself would tighten the noose. At 3:00 a.m., Lara called again. SEC just confirmed receipt of the file. "It's official now." Evelyn nodded to no one. She closed her laptop, the city humming faintly beyond glass. In the reflection, her face looked calm, almost distant. She realized she had crossed a line, one that could not fade. But she also realized something quieter. She no longer feared him. The man who once defined her world was now just another case file in her archive. She turned off the lights, leaving the boardroom in darkness. Somewhere far below, sirens echoed faintly through the streets. The empire was collapsing, and she was the only one still standing inside its ruins. Dawn arrived gray and brittle over the river. The Carter and Haynes Tower loomed like a monument to denial. Inside, the board reconvened for an emergency session. Evelyn entered without a word, carrying a folder marked "Final." The directors looked hollow, sleepless, almost repentant. Her father sat at the far end, eyes rimmed red with fury. He hadn't shaved, his tie was gone, his empire was dying. Evelyn placed the folder on the table and slid it forward. "These are the financial transfers from last night," she said. "Unauthorized, unsecured, direct breach of the debt agreement." The numbers glared in ink, reckless, irreversible, fatal. Richard clenched his fists. "You set me up." She shook her head. "You walked into your own reflection." Brookfield's legal counsel cleared his throat. "Mr. Carter, these actions violate the credit protection clause. Our firm is withdrawing oversight effective immediately." Gasps spread across the room like wind over fire. The investors' representatives turned to Evelyn next. "If you can stabilize operations within 48 hours, we will continue limited funding." Her nod was measured, deliberate. "Then we move forward." Richard slammed a fist against the table, voice shaking. "You can't take what I built." Evelyn met his eyes, unflinching. "I'm not taking it, I'm repairing it." She opened her laptop and projected the final motion. "Effective immediately, I call for a vote to suspend Richard Carter as Chief Executive Officer." The words hung in the air like a verdict waiting to fall. No one spoke. Then the oldest board member raised his hand. I second the motion. One by one, the hands lifted, slow, heavy, inevitable. Richard looked around the room, betrayed by his own creation. Cowards, he spat. All of you. The count finished. Majority achieved. Evelyn exhaled quietly. Motion passed. She turned to the compliance terminal beside her. One final command waited on screen. Admin access, transfer. She entered her credentials, steady as stone. Access confirmed. Her father's name vanished from the list of active users. A small digital sound marked the end of an era. Richard stood, trembling. You'll regret this, Evelyn. I already did, she said softly. Years ago. Security entered discreetly, their presence silent but absolute. He stared at her one last time, not as a father, but as a man, watching his legacy dissolve into data. The elevator doors closed behind him with a metallic sigh. Evelyn looked around the table, her voice clear and calm. Begin the recovery sequence. Restart clear data servers. Freeze all outgoing transfers. And rebuild from the truth up. The directors obeyed without question. Outside, sunlight cracked through the clouds at last. Evelyn stood alone at the window, watching the city awaken beneath her. The glass reflected two faces. The woman she was, and the leader she became. The war was over. No blood, no victory speeches. Only silence, order, and a new beginning. The apartment was quiet, wrapped in the hum of dawn. Evelyn set her briefcase down and unbuttoned her coat. The city outside still carried the weight of sleepless hours. She walked to the desk where a wooden box waited. It had belonged to her mother, untouched for years. Inside lay a folded note, yellowed at the edges. If you choose truth, you will lose comfort, but you will find yourself. Her throat tightened as she traced the fatting ink. She smiled, small and human, for the first time in months. The phone buzzed once, a message from David. Proud of you, I'm sorry for everything. She didn't reply. Some wounds healed best in silence. She turned to the window, watching light spill across the river. Below, the Carter and Haynes logo flickered on the tower's crown. Soon it would bear her signature, not his. Not out of vengeance, but out of necessity. She placed the note back inside the box and closed it gently. The war was finished, but the work had just begun. In the glass, her reflection whispered one truth. Power was never inherited. It was earned line by line, choice by choice.